I think it's important when you look at the Shadelands and that's a world-class facility. It certainly is. And Copa, we had the NBA league there. Can you imagine? Goodness, and we had Curry's plant. And wasn't that fun? And I think people would like to see the same thing at that Clark Center, whatever it's named in the future, and the ability to draw people in to dine and shop and stay in our hotel. So I think that's very important. I think that's a great plan. I'm going to get off this a little bit, but I do want to start finish up with private contributions to this. I do know that there's a foundation for the pool, and there's the Walnut Creek Soccer Club. Those entities are very interested in the improvements that you just spoke about, and how are they engaged with the city in that?
Well, they're fully engaged, and I appreciate you asking about that. The council, when we were going through the Your Parks, Your Future discussions, identified priorities, and one of those priorities was to ensure that there was a private commitment to fundraising for priority facilities. And so the Walnut Creek Aquatics Foundation and the Walnut Creek Soccer Club have both actively come before the city and said they want to participate. They're committed to helping fundraise for those facilities and to see them be built and for their members to be able to benefit from them. It's really no different than the group that came together to fundraise for the new library downtown. And I think that also is a way that we demonstrate to the voters that the city is being fiscally responsible and prudent with resources and looking for other sources of revenue, including from the private sector.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I do want to move on now to the issue of public safety. And as we all know, we're kind of licking our wounds from we call it the snatch and grab, the kind of the Nordstroms, and before that, the Macy's issue. And the citizens are just awfully concerned. Now, it's endemic across the country and across the state. We are hearing about these smash and grabs. But a good thing and a bad thing is Walnut Creek is a target. People come here. It's a wonderful place to come. But because of that, people also come to march legitimately and demonstrate. But also some people come to take advantage of some of our stores and take things that they're not entitled to take. So I want to get back to you were saying that part of the funds that the city got allowed the city to hire 5 additional police officers. And I think that's a big issue with the citizens is what is happening and what is the plan for the future to try to head that off and ensure that that doesn't ever happen again.
Well, we're firmly committed to that. We have a zero tolerance policy for any type of criminal activity in our city. And I want to start by trying to assure the residents and business members of the community that while the Nordstrom incident was extremely unfortunate and disturbing, that the crime statistics actually show crime is within about the 5-year averages for our community and is actually a little bit lower if you look a little bit wider out to the 10-year time frame. So we're within those statistical norms. Obviously, when you have something of a high-profile nature like the Nordstrom smash and grab, it happens right before the holidays, it's upsetting. And it shakes your sense of security. And I'm proud that this city and this council acted quickly and decisively. Right after that incident happened in November, we had an emergency meeting of the council, and we authorized, with the city manager's support and blessing, the hiring of 5 additional police officers. We immediately closed Broadway Plaza Lane to through traffic. And then we, in the meantime, before those officers can get up and get hired, authorize the additional overtime for officers, both in our department and from mutual aid from other departments, and kind of looking at additional security measures that we can use, cameras, drones, license plate readers. You know, let's use technology to our advantage on this to try to help fight crime. We wanted, by doing that, we'll have a physical component of this, that there'll be additional officers patrolling downtown, and that'll be a visible deterrent to crime. It's also, from an emotional and social standpoint, we are a safe community. We are committed to the safety of this community, and law enforcement obviously is an important part of that.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of law enforcement and how things, we have a big homeless issue, and we hear around the country that so often that the police are the first to arrive, that police are called when people are in crisis. And Walnut Creek has the jewel of the Trinity Center. Certainly people wish that every city had something such as the Trinity Center. But let's talk a little bit about homelessness now. Walnut Creek has a homeless problem. There's no question about it. Nothing like some of our sister cities around. But it is an issue, and what is the city doing at this point to address that issue of homelessness?
Yeah, well, I and my colleagues on the council are firmly committed to a compassionate but proactive response to homelessness in Walnut Creek. And that's demonstrated by our commitment to the Homeless Outreach Patrol, which is made up of 2 members of our police department who patrol the streets downtown and around our neighborhoods, looking to stave off any issues associated with homeless, trying to interact with the homeless, getting to know them on a personal basis, and making them aware of the community services that are available to them. The council also authorized the hiring of a county homeless outreach team and making that full-time for the next 2 years. It had been part-time before that. So now we have Homeless Outreach Patrol and the county core team patrolling the streets, dealing with the homeless on kind of a full-time basis. You mentioned the Trinity Center. The city is an active partner. We're thankful to have the Trinity Center in our community. I think they do very, very valuable work in helping the homeless have a semblance of normalcy in their lives and hopefully move on to more permanent housing and employment. The city also funds the winter overnight shelter and will continue to do that. And just stepping back, the city has received affordable housing fees from some of the market rate developments that have gone in around town, and are committed and have used those funds to see 100% affordable housing projects be built. Projects like Habitat for Humanity and a new 97-unit project that's being built at Civic and Ignacio right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, that brings up so many questions, but the interesting thing is I want to stay a little bit on the homeless issue and the issue of so much of it is not just homeless when we see people around Walnut Creek, particularly people that have been here for a long time that are homeless, but some profoundly mentally ill people. And the issue isn't simply building housing for those people. And I think when you were talking about the homeless outreach and this work with other cities in the county, how is that working when it comes to dealing with those people that are just really profoundly ill? You just see them and understand it. Difficult to put them into housing.
And that's a good question. Mental health is a key component. It's integrally tied to the homeless problem. And the county, with the city's help and the help of other neighboring cities, has formed an A3 program. Anyone, anywhere, anytime can access behavioral health services from the county. And the county is in the process of ramping up an existing program to make it 24/7, that there will be a call number for someone that's in crisis that can call. Someone on the receiving end, the call center is called the Miles Hall Community Crisis Hub. Someone at that center, which is active now, it's not 24/7 yet, but it will be, ideally by June of next year. Someone on the receiving end will receive that call, triage the call, and send an appropriate response. It could be a crisis counselor, it could be an emergency medical technician, and it often will be a law enforcement person. And the city has, in addition to the county's A3 program, which is up and running now and will be expanded to full-time, the county's using Measure X dollars to fund that by next year. The police department, under the leadership of Chief Knox, has taken steps to enter into mutual aid agreements with Martinez and Pleasant Hill to offer specialized training for more of our officers, crisis intervention training, so that if an officer is called to a call involving someone having a mental health crisis, it'll be an officer that has specialized training. It might not be a Walnut Creek officer, but it'll be an officer that's on call 24/7 that will have that specialized training.
Well, that's wonderful news, and I have to say, I'm born and raised here and pretty connected to a lot of things that are happening, and I didn't know that that was happening. I didn't know about that kind of, I'll call it a crisis hotline, and I think this is wonderful that the citizens, and particularly people listening in, will spread that news, because that is so critical at that crisis point. Who do you call? Who can come out? And I think, for the most part, people call the police department, call 911 initially. Nice to know that the police also have some help and people that are trained.
I think it's going to be transformative, and I think it's an issue that we as a society and have not handled well for many years, and I think this is part of the solution. I'm really encouraged by the progress that the county has made on this program. For those of you who are interested, there was an update given by the County Health Services Department in January. It's on the county's website, and you had Supervisor Mitchoff and Anderson speaking, and Congressman DeSaulnier. And there's a whole coalition of people that are very committed to addressing the problems of homelessness and mental health and illness in our community. They say that 1 in 5 people in our community are affected by mental health. And so it affects really every family in Walnut Creek.
Mm-hmm.